All right, welcome to the Math 1000 Statistics Lecture. I am Bo Corkins, and we're going to take a look, all right, at statistics. So, statistics is about, we're going to look at basic quantitative statistics, all right? And most of statistics is actually about drawing a picture. So, the main picture for quantitative data is a histogram. Now, dot plot and stem and leaf are also a type of picture that we investigate, but without a doubt, the main one, all right, is a histogram. So I'm going to look at tuition data for a 20-year period, and the main histogram we create, the main picture we create is a histogram. Notice it kind of looks like a bar chart broken into these bins. So notice that is saying tuitions between 5,000 and 6,000. There were two values there. You can notice that because that's exactly what we had in the data. All right, there are two values between 5,000 and 6,000. And that's what a histogram is. These bins are auto-created by the technology, so we don't have to worry about that, but you can identify them particularly if you're trying to get a better look at the shape. Two other plots, just so you're familiar, that are basically similar to histograms, but not as good. One is a stem and leaf plot. So notice that it's got the thousands here. Here's 5,000. And then the hundreds value, 500, 700. So this is saying 5,500, 5,700. And notice that's about these values, right? 5,500, 5,700. And then dot plot's the last one. Notice it's really hard to identify what I'm looking at. It's just a list of a bunch of the values, right? But here's our two values on the low end again. So our picture, our main picture is going to be a histogram. And what we're going to focus on, though, is just kind of the basics of calculating centers and spreads. So let's start with our four measures of center. All right, median, mean, mode, and range, the four M's. Median, all right, that is the exact middle value. Or line up the values in order, and the exact middle number, that's the median. All right, just like the median of the highway. The mean, notationally represented as Y bar or X bar, all right, which is the sum of all the values, and this symbol right here, all right, that's capital sigma. That means sum. All right, sum of all the values divided by the total number of data values. The mode, that is the most frequently occurring number. Usually you can see this in small data sets by just what number is the most. There can be multiple modes, right? So if you have the same value that occurred, like three different values occur 10 times, right? And that would be and those are the most, then yes, those are the modes. If every value is distinct, we typically say there are no modes. It is technically also correct to say there are all modes, but typically we say there are no modes. And then the mid-range, this is the value in between the maximum plus the minimum divided by 2. This isn't really a great number, especially when you have like skewed data sets, but it's a simple value to calculate for sure. Spreads is actually more the focus of statistics than center is, because how data is spread out actually means more to us. So we have two measures that we're going to look at, the range and the standard deviation. Range, without a doubt, is the easiest to calculate. Maximum minus the minimum gives you the top and the bottom. All right, without a doubt, maybe the one you're most familiar with, you've seen the most. Standard deviation, though, is actually one of the best measures of spread to calculate. Now, be aware the calculation, very, very complicated. All right, the calculation of standard deviation actually requires a lot to it. Some of the squared deviations subtracted from the mean, and then all divided by n minus 1. Then square root that whole thing to get the standard deviation. So be very, very aware that the calculation, we're only going to use technology to calculate this. All right. And our technology that we're going to use is Excel. You can do this in the calculator as well with what's known as one variable statistics, one var stats. All right. But mostly, all right, we're going to use Excel. So I have the details of how to do this in Excel, just so you're aware. Let's look at an example. So I want to look at the data set here, and I want to create a histogram, find the 4 measures of center and the 2 measures of spread. So to Excel we go. I've already entered the data values. Human error is the biggest issue, so make sure that's your #1 priority to not mis-enter the data. All right, so first let's make a histogram. All right, so we go into Insert right here, Statistic Chart, and Histogram. So just grab this one and select the values. Select the values, then go Insert Histogram. And notice it's got the bins, and we could go in here and we could adjust the bins, and it has some options of some colors we could adjust if we were so inclined. But just be aware, all right, the absolute basics of calculating a histogram, that's how you do it in Excel. All right, we wanted several different values. So mean, median, mode, all right, mid-range. And then we want standard deviation and the range. So several values we want to calculate. If you're unfamiliar with Excel, you start with the equal command, and then in order to get the mean, you use the command titled average, open parenthesis, come over here, select your values, and then hit enter. Median, very similar, equals median, open parenthesis, select your data set, hit enter. Mode, open parenthesis, notice that all those, and be aware, so mode, notice I see 1, 2, 3, 4 15s. That's the most commonly occurring value. That's one that with a data set this small, I can do by hand. But when you start getting 1,000 values, you want to use the technology. So for the median, I can line these values up and identify the median. But again, it's just so much easier with the technology. Mid-range, okay, so notice these ones, right? Equals average, equals median, equals mode. Those all had commands for them. Mid-range does not. In order to do mid-range, I actually need to find the maximum. So I'm going to say maximum of these numbers, close the parenthesis, plus the minimum of those numbers, close the entire parentheses, and divide by 2. So I'm adding the min and the max. Now be aware, we can do this. All right, I'm going to hit enter. And oh, it says the mid-range is 15. Looking at these numbers, what's the minimum? Oh, it's 10. What's the maximum? 20. 10 plus 20 is 30, divided by 2, oh, is 15. Right? So this calculation still works, but that's one that I could just do by hand as well. All right, standard deviation. This is absolutely, yes, okay. This is one you can calculate by hand, but it is absolutely a mess and super easy to make a mistake. So equals standard deviation, STDEV. Now notice there are lots of options. There's unbiased, biased, all right, population parameter estimates. We are going to be using This one, stdev. That's the command we're using. Okay? No other option. This is the unbiased standard deviation operator. And then lastly, range. Range is sort of like mid-range. There's no equals range command. Notice, oh, equals range. It's not there. So in order to do this, I need to actually do maximum minus the minimum. Now, once again, maximum minus the minimum, that's 20 minus 10. This should spit out 10 for us. Oh, look. So, all right, Excel is doing a calculation for us that we could easily do by hand. All right. I just want to make sure, all right, that you understand what is happening in case we have a big data set and you can't do it by hand. So notice, all right, mean, median, mode, and standard deviation all have commands. Mid-range and range, we had to do our own calculation. All right. All right. That should be absolutely everything. Have yourself a wonderful day.